Welcome to WorldatWork TV. I'm Alison Avalos, and I'm joined today by Bonnie Schindler and Sue Schroeder with Vivient Consulting. And we're talking about a joint survey conducted by WorldatWork and Vivient Consulting. And in this session, we're talking specifically about nonprofits and government agencies and some of the findings there on incentive pay practices. So first, can you talk about what history we have on this sector in terms of these incentive pay data, the incentive pay survey? And then also, are there any emerging trends that we're seeing?
We started out by doing a private company survey in 2007, and we did have a number of nonprofit and government responses at that time, but it wasn't really enough to do a separate analysis to have a large enough sample size. So then when we did the survey again in 2011, we had actually a fairly large response of about 80 different organizations. So at that time, we reported a separate cut in the survey. And then when we did the survey again in 2013, we found we had a very large response. Almost half of our respondents were nonprofit and government entities. We had 175 organizations participate. So really what we're seeing as the trend is that there's increasing interest among the nonprofits and government organizations in offering incentives. And we've also been seeing that come out through our client work, where we've had some nonprofits come to us and ask for some short-term incentive plan designs.
So Sue, what does this say about how nonprofits and government agencies are working to motivate and retain talent?
Yes, well, I think it's becoming increasingly important as they compete for talent with the public companies and then the private for-profit companies. And they also want to do the same concept that everybody's talking about, linking pay and performance. And so what we did this year in 2013 in our survey is ask a final question. And we asked it across all three surveys, the public one that was done by Deloitte Consulting, the private one that was done by us, and the nonprofit one done by Vivient. And the question was, what are the key tools that you use to retain top talent? And by far, the most important or the most prevalent across all the three sectors was job advancement and promotion, which was really interesting to us as compensation money type people. So it's not about throwing money at people, it's the opportunity to advance, to learn, to be promoted in the company. And so that was also the most prevalent at the nonprofits as well. But what was also interesting there was the flexible work hours. The nonprofits, that was also a very prevalent response, much more so than at a public company or a private for-profit company. So I would say the job advancement and promotion and then the flexible work arrangements are really key for nonprofits.
Okay, so there are clearly some opportunities outside of incentive compensation to reward folks. In terms of this sector though, what types of short-term incentives are being used?
In the survey, we asked about a number of different types of short-term incentive plans. For instance, annual incentive plans or AIPs, which is kind of a typical bonus plan. We asked about spot awards, just discretionary awards, retention awards, project and team awards. And just like their for-profit counterparts, nonprofits and government entities favor the annual incentive plan. And these organizations also tend to offer fewer incentive plans than their for-profit counterparts. They usually offer 1 to 3. That was what we saw as being typical, whereas the for-profit companies may offer a greater number of different plans.
Okay, so what's typically included then within that annual incentive plan?
Well, the annual incentive plan, similar to the private for-profit companies, the eligibility is for the exempt level and above, so that eligibility was similar. What was different with the nonprofits is they use many more measures, typically 4 to 6 performance measures. So they're trying to measure performance more holistically across the organization. Whereas the private for-profit used 1 to 3 measures, the nonprofits use 4 to 6. What they're really focusing on there is operational measures, such as customer satisfaction, client service, those types of things. Where we did see more financial type measures, it was a surplus concept like revenue over expenses, that kind of thing.
So there are clearly some differences by sector when you look at
Yes.
this data. Thank you both for your insight. Look for a related video where we talk about the data for privately held companies. For WorldatWork, I'm Alison Avalos.